Children, next you must know, why should we actually conserve our forest and wildlife? How does it matter whether we have few animals on earth or not, whether there are few trees or not? How does it actually affect us, and why should we need to conserve them? In fact, we need to conserve forest and wildlife because it preserves the ecological diversity of India. That is, water, air and soil are in fact all dependent on the conservation of forest and the wildlife we do. You see, we are interdependent on each other, whether it is the plants or the animals or the human beings. When we are interconnected to each other and we affect each other's living, and they in fact are also affecting the water, air and soil, we need to conserve them. That becomes our utmost priority. Next is, if we actually conserve them, we are preserving the genetic diversity of plants and animals in India. And it's also required for better growth of species and breeds in India. So you see, if conservation of wildlife resources and the forest resources are neglected, it's definitely going to affect our lifestyle. We are going to be in difficult position and difficult times ahead, because to protect each other is actually required. In fact, if we protect them, we get protected ourselves. Indirectly or directly, as I said, we are dependent on each other for our existence. This planet Earth is such a kind of home that we need to depend on each other, and no man can survive all alone by himself without bothering as to what is happening to the other species. Now, what are the measures which the government of India has done to protect the flora and fauna in India? You see, since the government of today's are the government of the welfare kind of government, and the welfare kind of government need to protect us, and when they need to protect us, they need to protect the flora and fauna. So the first thing that the government of India did was that the Indian Wildlife Act was passed in the year 1972. This act has provisions for protecting the various habitats. You see, this Indian Wildlife Act has actually categorized which species falls under the category of what kind, and what should the people do, and how they are going to protect these species in future. Second is, the government of India has published a list of protected species, and it becomes the duty of every citizen of India to know this list and to see that we do not indulge into poaching or hunting of any kind of these species. And there are various examples when few big people have been caught in this act. Next is, the government is also wanting to protect the endangered species so that they do not go to the next category of becoming the extinct species. Therefore, there is a total ban on hunting in India, and there is a measure which provides legal protection to the habitats of the forest. Besides, there is a restriction on the trade of wildlife in the country. So, unless the government does not impose these measures strictly, we cannot have a good wildlife in India. So, for the protection of forest and wildlife, the government of India needs to impose and keep on amending the laws which are required for the sustainable development and protection of forest and wildlife resources in India. I talk about the rest of the chapter in the next clipping.